Yo, good evening, everybody. This is your Coach Ren. So, Snoop Dogg performs at the gospel of Super Bowl, and Christians are mad. Christians have issues and anger. Now, not all, but there's enough who are pissed off because Snoop Dogg performed his gospel CD at the Super Bowl of gospel. And y'all mad. I would think that you would be happy. Because if you really believe the book that you claiming your Christianity is based on, then you should be happy simply because he exemplifies exactly what your book is talking about. He exemplifies all the stories that you supposedly believe in. So here's the thing. For all of those who are hypocritical about it, help me to understand how Rahab can be a prostitute, be redeemed, and yet Snoop Dogg can't. How Noah can get drunk. I don't believe he was a drunkard, as people try to teach, but he gets drunk, curses his son, but he was used by God. David, who is called a man after God's own heart, murders people, steals people's wives, do all these other things. He is a man after God's own heart, but Snoop Dogg can't change. How Peter can deny Jesus 3 times, but he's still the stone, the rock that the church is built on, according to the Catholics, and Snoop Dogg can't change. How is it that Matthew is a crooked tax collector, but yet he cannot be, and he can be redeemed, but Snoop Dogg cannot be redeemed by based on your book? I could go on and on about different people. Paul, just murdering Christians left and right, those who follow Jesus, left and right according to your literature. Gets knocked off his horse, blind, scales over the eyes, all of a sudden can see. Then, boom, he's like written 60% of your New Testament. But Snoop Dogg can't be redeemed. One person even went so far as to say that he has sold his soul to the devil when he did his CD about murder. I forgot what the name of it. But he has sold his soul to the devil. Okay, so here's the thing. You're telling me that your God, who rose after 3 days in the grave with all power in his hand, cannot get a soul back. That once the soul is gone, sold to the devil, that the soul can't be redeemed. I mean, as long as they're alive, my understanding is that if you profess it with your mouth that you believe in Jesus, that you died for your sins, then and that he is now, and he rose and he's with God, then you can be redeemed. But yet, according to some people, according to some of these holier than thou, judgmental Christians, Snoop Dogg can't do it. This video has been sponsored by My Naturally Pure coffee scrubs for men and women. This all-natural product, as pure polish and pure indulgence for women, is designed as a coffee scrub to help you with the epidermis of your skin. The coffee and caffeine will raise the blood levels to your skin so that it becomes more oxygenated and fights anti-aging, as well as giving you a clearer complexion. My Naturally Pure and My Naturally Pure Indulgence is also designed to have an antiseptic and anti-inflammation agents with the other natural oils that are within the product. Order My Naturally Pure, Pure Indulgence, and Pure Polish for men and women at mynaturallypure.com. Thank you. Can't do it. Now, this is why there were comments below the video that is circulating on Facebook where some people are saying, this is why I left the church. Now, many people went to his defense. Many people call out the folks who are claiming that these other holier-than-thou judgmental Christians are not acting as Christian, because I didn't know, me personally, I didn't know that the judgmental ones on there would be standing at the gate, saying, no, it is my opinion, no. I didn't know that was their job. Maybe somebody didn't give me the memo that was their job too. That I never saw that in the literature, that their job is to stand there and decide who in current earth were going to be there and get in and not. But according to them, he's not. So this is why there are comments in there of people saying that this is why I left the church. This is why I'm not Christian anymore. This is why I'm not religious anymore, is because of these other humans, these other judgmental humans. And I know in the comments people are going to say that a true Christian would never do that, a true Christian this and true Christian that. But here's the thing, those people feel like they are true Christians as well. The people who burn people at the stake back in the day felt like they were true Christians. These popes who murdered people and sent out armies to murder people, who did the Inquisitions, those felt like they were true Christians. The one who held African slaves and beat them and murdered them, they felt like they were true Christians as well. The KKK feel like they are true Christians as well. Hitler believed that he was a true Christian. So everybody always think that their way is being a true Christian. So here's this guy who is saying, here's these people, not a guy, here's these people who are saying that Snoop Dogg can't come back, can't be redeemed. If Snoop Dogg can't be redeemed, then how can you? That's my question. How can you be redeemed if Snoop Dogg can't be redeemed? You know, according to your literature, if your book is set up where you have to be born into it and stay into it and never deviate, then what's the point? Then there will be no need for a judgment, because then if you can never deviate, if you're born into it and you're always in the mix, you're always holier than everybody else, then no one else can come back. Let me tell you why you feel this way. Let me tell you why people feel this way. You may not, but let me tell you why people feel this way. We have a habit of romanticizing historical figures. We have a habit of, if somebody's talked about in the past, we romanticize them and never think ill of them, unless what we do talk about them in the past is something that is ill. If you talk about Hitler, you're going to talk about the negative things. Not one person that I know of really talks about a good thing about Hitler. Not one good thing about him is ever spoken of, and for good reason. Not one good thing, for most cases, are not spoken of Charles Manson. You know, most of these people are not spoken well of. But for those who we do speak well of, when people talk about the disciples and how they came over, how they were changed and circumcision of the heart, and they had a daily changing of the mind. When people talk about Paul, they talk about Rahab, they talk about how Ruth, who was a Moabite woman who did not believe in the same God as Naomi nor her husband. If you think about it, she was married to her husband, didn't believe in the same God as her husband, and she didn't start flipping gods until after. I'm gonna do a video about Ruth in a minute. Until after she left with Naomi. Then she changed, not while with her husband, but when she left with Naomi. Then she changed her belief. This is the woman who had Obed, who then had Jesse, who then had David, right? So David lineage is a Moabite lineage as well as an Israelite Hebrew lineage. So even though these people, we romanticize them and, oh, they're so wonderful and they're so great, but a person that you know, that you see their life unfold before your eyes, you've seen them in the past, those are the people you have a harsh judgment. Why? Because you know of their negativity. If you was with Dr. King and you saw his trials, his tribulation, you saw his thorn in his side, then you may not romanticize him as well as somebody who was born in the 70s and never met him, and they only have seen the great things about Dr. King. Those who have only seen the great things about Gandhi, those who only seen know the great things about like Lao Tzu and the Buddha and the Dalai Lama and Mother Teresa. We only know the great things about Mother Teresa. Nobody knows they're crazy. Nobody knows their insanities. Nobody knows the things they struggle with. We don't know those things, so we romanticize the character of the person. We romanticize W.B. Du Bois, and we romanticize George Washington and Abraham Lincoln. We romanticize George Washington Carver and Frederick Douglass, but we don't think about the negative aspects of their real personality. And so when we think about people in the past, people written in a book, if they're written to be favorable, if we think about them, then that's where we get stuck. That's where we stay. And we continue to romanticize them. But when we see people who change in front of our eyes, when we see people who make a different decision in front of our eyes, then we cannot let it go because we're holding on to their past. This is why in your literature it says that the prophet cannot go home. Why? Because the people in his home, they remember Lil Jesus. Lil Jesus, if you read the infancy gospel of Thomas and you accept that one, in that book, Lil Jesus is pushing folks off roofs and bringing them back to life and messing all, and he's a little hellion, right? So if you read the infancy, those people in the hometown was like, that Joseph boy, we ain't nobody following you. We remember when you was running around doing X, Y, and Z. Just like people today from your hometown, they remember when you were doing X, Y, and Z. And because you was doing X, Y, and Z, they cannot accept you now that you're A, B, and C. You understand? So because of that type of mindset, This is why people are having a difficult time accepting Snoop Dogg. They see all the things he did, all the weed smoking. But trust me, there are many weed smokers in your church, many weed smoking pastors, weed smoking mothers, weed smoking everybody. There's plenty of alcohol drinking pastors and mothers and deacons and bishops and everything in your church. But because you saw what Snoop Dogg did, you saw the womanizing, you saw the lifestyle, you can't accept now that he's something different, now that he's changed. You can't accept that, which is why you are a bigger hypocrite, which is why he's more than likely, if your narrative is correct, which is why he's more than likely to get in than the hypocritical you. So even though I don't subscribe to the belief, what I do subscribe to is treating people fairly and equally. If somebody changes who they are and they want to do something a different way, then we should accept that. Unless they show you otherwise, unless their actions demonstrate something otherwise, you should accept the person for what they are doing right now, because you don't know what happened in his life to make him change from the guy he was when he was 19, 20 years old to the guy that he is in his, I don't know how old he is, 40s, 50s, whatever, how old he is now. You don't know what's happened in his life to make that change in him. You don't know what's happened in my life to make the change in me. You don't know what's happened in your neighbor's life to make the change in them. You don't know what happened in your brother's life, your sister's life, your mother's life, your aunt's life that made the change in them. But if you're holding people to the past of what you knew about them and not accepting what they're doing now, then you are the one that is caught up into what you call sin. You are the one who is caught up into what you call judgmental. So maybe you are the one who will be standing at the gate and Snoop Dogg will be saying, no, you judge me. You can't come in. This has been your Coach Renz. I hope you guys free yourself to be yourself, because your greatness is non-negotiable.